Welcome back to Keeping It Normal with Emily. As always, if you watch the video version of this, I film that little dancey dance I do in my there's no music. I add the music later. So I kind of am just jamming in my chair by myself in my basement. But we're on episode 5 of the podcast. I feel so excited. When I started this, I really just jumped into the deep end of the pool, not knowing if I was going to sink or swim, not knowing if I was going to enjoy myself. I just knew it was something I wanted to try. And so far, I feel like I'm swimming. I feel like it's such a passion project now, and it's been so fun, and I feel it's just great. And I hope the vibe is, the intention is that you feel like we are sitting down having a conversation, or you're kind of listening in on a conversation between two friends. It's kind of organized, but it's casual and it's unfiltered and just laid back. I want you to just kind of be able to zone out and have something nice to listen to. So I'm kind of following this pattern of I do a solo episode and then an episode with a guest. Again, this is totally winging it. Do I have a guest lined up for next week? Nope. These are put out on Sundays. Am I filming this, what you're listening to right now, Friday night at 9:33 p.m.? Yeah, yes, I am. Hopefully I have time to edit this tomorrow. So I don't even have a set plan of what I want to talk about. I just kind of want to talk about like human experiences. I think there's a couple topics that are in my brain that I would like to explore further and kind of process in real time with you. So I definitely want to talk about my recent trip to the dentist, because I feel like dental anxiety and shame around dental work is a really big, common thing. So I kind of want to dive in and talk about my recent dental journey. So this is such a common fear, anxiety inducing thing. It is a common thing that people feel a lot of shame about. And I think that's why I decided to put it on the internet, because, and I will tell you, it did help. I had people contact me after sharing about my dental journey, and they were like, you literally inspired me to make an appointment. I feel like if you could do it, I could do it too, which made me cry because I'm a big crybaby. But I think I've really learned that in vulnerability comes a lot of strength, and you find a lot of community in it. And so I put on the internet, I put on the web that I had not been to the dentist in 10 years. I got my wisdom teeth out when I was 19 or 20, I think. And that was the last time I went to the dentist. I'm talking cleanings, nothing. And growing up, I never had a cavity. I never had dental work done, nothing. Honestly, my dental hygiene, so-so. Like, I just think I had good genetics, which we know does play a role. It does. Of course, there's other factors, but your genetics, it does play a role. You can be predispositioned to like have worse teeth. Growing up, my siblings had cavities, and they were way more adamant about brushing their teeth and all the things. So anyway, I never had a cavity, never had anything. So after 10 years, this was kind of the year I'm 30, and I was like, okay, this is the year I get my stuff together. I got to go to the doctor. I still honestly need to, there's things I need to do, but going to the dentist was on my list because I'm like, it's been 10 years. Like, there's no way I don't have a cavity. But see, I was naive, and in my brain, honestly, I was like, you know what? You're going to go in there and they're going to tell you you have no cavities because you're amazing. I literally thought that. I was like, I'm going to go in there and they're going to be like, this is a miracle. You have nothing wrong with your teeth. No, that is not the case at all. I went in. Now I will say they were impressed with like my gum health and my, like the tops of my teeth, no cavities. In between my teeth, let me tell you what, you have babies and you do a decade with like, I'm just going to be honest. I didn't floss. It was like a decade of very little flossing. And then babies they just do a number on your teeth. 14 cavities. 14 cavities, all in between my teeth. And I do have crowding in my teeth, which is going to make it harder to clean anyway. But the fact of the matter is I didn't floss very well or at all for like a decade. 14 cavities. And I didn't feel an ounce of shame about it. I put on the internet. I was like, guys, I have 14 cavities. I talked about how it's definitely a privilege because I have dental insurance and it sucks. I mean, healthcare in this country is a joke, a big fat joke, but It's incredibly expensive, and there's no way I can get all of this done at one time. It's thousands of dollars for those 14 cavities, thousands. So I'm working on it. I got 3 fillings done, but I made a video about it and encourage people to go make an appointment and encourage people to feel like they could do it, because I also had my first appointment. I have 3 fillings now on the top left side. And I made a video about it, how I got my teeth drilled. And at one point I started to feel pain and they had to numb me. But it was honestly not as, I had a lot of anxiety going in, but then I did it. I survived it. I did the thing. I got my teeth drilled and filled, and they did a great job, and they really were great through the whole thing with me, all of the things. But I put that on the internet because I feel like people are they feel a lot of shame around their teeth. They are embarrassed if they, like I was hesitant to say I had 14 cavities. I was a little embarrassed. I was slightly embarrassed to say that. And then I was like, what are you embarrassed for? This is the human experience. This is part of life. This is not something that I should be embarrassed about. I'm just going to talk about it because it's real. And what was, of course, I had so many comments of people saying, yep, I went after, I haven't gone in 15 years, or I went after 7 years and I had 20 cavities and I had to get 3 teeth pulled. And like everyone kind of almost like I could feel the sigh of relief, because it's all it takes. All it takes is someone saying, I've been through this. It's okay. We're getting through it. That kind of makes you go, oh, okay. If she can talk about it, I can talk about it. And I've kind of done that now with everything, with parenting and life and feelings and just all of it, just kind of saying, yeah, this is my human experience, because it's usually not a unique experience. Like people say that like it's a bad thing sometimes. They're like, there's no such thing as an individual experience or a unique experience. And they say that with a negative connotation. You see someone going through something, I see the comment all the time of like, wow, I've really never had a single unique experience, in a negative light. I think that's amazing. I was going to swear. I'm trying not to swear. But I think that's so beautiful, because I've always gotten comfort from seeing what other people have gone through. I remember my parents got divorced as when I was an adult. I think it was like 5. So I was like 25 years old. They said they were getting divorced, but they are great friends, which is like every kid's dream. Like you want your parents to be great friends and you want them to be able to be in the same room at Christmas, but they were like besties still. And so I was struggling to like process their divorce when they're still really great friends, that it's almost like, wait, are you guys divorced? I mean, they are, but, and I remember Googling and Googling really specifically. I was like, what happens when you are an adult and your parents get divorced, but they're still best friends? All I wanted was like a blog, an article of someone being like, yeah, and here's how I got through it. And it was fine. Like just that, knowing someone has gone through it and saying like, it's okay. It was also really comforting when my daughter went to preschool, because I had a really hard time with that. And all of the moms being like, it's really hard, but you get through it. And now I'm on the other side of it. And now I'm like, I wish I could go back to me a year ago when I was upset about, not even a year ago, when she started school, and just like give myself a hug and say, it's going to be okay. You're going to get through it. I do think with most things, it ends up being okay in the end. I could say that confidently. I feel like for most things, of course, not all things, but I feel like for most things in the end, it ends up okay. And we spend a lot of time worrying and trying to prevent things and worrying about things that in the end, it usually ends up okay. So that was my experience. Go to the dentist, go get yourself checked out, go to that doctor appointment you've been putting off. Like, let's do it. Let's take care of ourselves. I really feel the shift this year. I think honestly it was turning 30. I think there was a shift, and I'm just like, I need to start like taking care of my body. I feel like I really got away with it being in my 20s, could eat whatever I want. I could sleep in weird positions and I woke up and my neck didn't hurt. I just feel like the shift is happening, which I don't know. I'm struggling with sleep lately. I have a lot of anxiety when I go to bed. and it's centered around like death. It's so depressing. It's true though. Every night I go to sleep and I'm laying there and I start imagining like all of my people in my life that I love dying. Not of anything tragic, really, just like old age. So I'm like, am I feeling this shift in aging? Am I starting to get anxiety over aging? Is it seeing all of my, my grandparents getting older, my parents getting older? I don't know what it is, but it is keeping me up at night and making me cry. So I've been taking magnesium to help me sleep. But it is I don't know, there's definitely been a shift in my brain, I feel like, of once I turned 30, which I think that's like a normal thing. Like people are like, "Oh, part of me loves it, obsessed with it. I feel better about myself. I love myself more than I ever have." And then I think there's also that realization, that shift of like everyone I love is getting older. I don't know. Who really knows? I'm rambling now. But I did want to talk about a couple things that popped up, some stories that were, I don't know, I was like, I want to talk about this in the podcast. I like that my brain is thinking like that now. Does this make any sense? Like going from topic to topic? Absolutely not. This is what is popping in my brain. You are just getting a feel for what my thought process is like, which it's all over the place. That's the thought process. But so I took, I took my kids to a play park thing, and I had seen a lot of talk online about gentle parenting, which we all know we don't like the term, but gentle parenting, how your kids are going to be soft, how the world is not kind, the world is not gentle. You need to prepare your kids for the world. And I've always responded with this with a couple ways. A, you're absolutely right. The world freaking sucks sometimes. And it's not gentle. And I want to give my kids a place that is. I want to be their safety zone from the world that is not gentle. I want them to have a place to come back to that is gentle. So that's my thought on that. Then the other thought is, though, that like, no, being in control of your emotions is weak and they need to be strong. Let me just tell you something, okay? My 4-year-old, nearly 5-year-old, she'll be 5 in May, has so much more emotional awareness and intelligence than me that I'm like, yes, I'm doing a good job. But I'm going to give you 2 scenarios, okay, that happen. So we go to this play park and we are there. They have these big Lego blocks that you can build towers with, but they're jumbo sized. They're like foam, so we're building with them. And then a group of like 5 or 6, probably like 4 or 5-year-old boys comes in. And it's my daughter and my son's there too, but they're playing independently. So my daughter's kind of sitting onto the side, building her little tower. And these boys, like I won't hit a kid, okay? But like I wanted to kind of trip one of these boys, okay? That's how I was feeling. But they're in a group, they're building a tower, and they start like prodding. They start poking and prodding. They start figuratively, but they're trying to get a rise out of my daughter who's building a tower. And they're like, we're Team Ranger. And my daughter she's like, we're Team Rangers too. And they're like, no, there can only be one. My daughter kind of looks at me like, what is going on? And I'm like, no, there can be more than one Team Ranger. And they're like, well, we're at a race. You guys are losing. And they're building their tower. We're going to win. And they're like getting each other riled up. And I was like, Hannah, it's not a race. They're playing a game. It's not a race. And I'm just like zeroed in on her. And she is cool. She's minding her business. And they start kind of throwing blocks and a boy comes and they're like these boys are like riling each other up and they're getting like angry, I guess. They're getting riled up, that like almost like that she's not getting riled up. They're feeding each other's energies. They're getting riled up. So the one little boy comes over and like knocks down her tower. And she looks at me and she's like, hey, she's like, he just knocked down my tower. And I was like, yeah, I was like, Hannah, I was like, deep breath. I was like, rebuild your tower. And I looked at the boys and I was like, you will not knock down her tower again. And, they, were wild and they ran away. Okay. So I went to my daughter and she's rebuilding her tower and she's cool. She's chill. And I was like, Hannah, I'm so proud of you, because I'm like, I know that you were angry when they knocked down your tower, but you stayed calm and You didn't go knock down their tower. You didn't hit them. You kept yourself calm. And she's like, yeah, I said, and those boys didn't. Those boys, and I said, you're better than them right now because you're stronger that you could stay calm while you were angry. I said, they don't know how to do that. And she's like, yeah, she said, she's like, I took a deep breath and I stayed calm, and they were angry, and I said, yeah. And I've told my kids, and I say it a lot, that one of the most powerful tools I believe in life is being able to be in control of your emotions, to be calm when you are angry, raging. That's intimidating as hell. That is power, my friends. I don't think there's quite that. That is a special kind of power, to be angry and to be calm. I told my friend Lauren that, and they were like, yeah, that's terrifying. I'm like, yeah, like in an impressive way. And so the boys came back in, one of the boys, and my daughter was like, yeah, you knocked down my tower because you were angry. Like, she's like helping him figure out his emotions, name his emotions. But it was just this moment of like, no, people will tell me that's weak, that is not preparing her for the world. So then we went to a museum. This is a different day, a different scenario, but we were at a museum, and it was a music class, and they had these floor cushions that were in the shape of apples, and they're soft. They're like pillows. Like, it's a floor cushion. So there's a little girl, and she was a wee bit younger than my daughter, I would guess, but not too much. She picks up the cushion this is out of nowhere, by the way. She picks up the cushion. She's kind of like fighting with her. I don't know. She must have been getting worked up about something, but she like turns and hits and starts like hitting Hannah, like out of nowhere. So Hannah just takes that cushion and like whips it back at the girl really hard and like makes a face. And I was like, all right. And I was like, you know what? My kid is regulated enough to not start shit, but she's going to finish it. And it made me think of my childhood where, like, I've never been in a fight. I know, look at me, shocking. But I've never been in a fight, like physical fight. I've been in a verbal fight, I'm sure. And like back in the day, I would argue back and forth on the AIM chats. But I've never been in a physical fight. I've never picked a fight. I haven't been in I keep myself out of situations where that would be likely to occur. It's just not something. And, my mom would never encourage us to fight or anything, but she did say, she's like, no, we don't hit. You don't call people names. She's like, but if you ever need to defend yourself, she was like, if you ever need to defend yourself, you get them on the ground and you sit on their knees, your shoulders on their knees, you hit them in the face. And I always had that in my brain. I've never needed to use it, but it was always in my brain of like, yeah, okay. Like if the time, and I think I don't know if it falls in line with gentle parenting, but I'm sure it does. Like it's, if you need to defend yourself. So like, that'll be something we continue as they get older. Like you don't start shit, but if you need to finish it, you do that. You know what I mean? So that happened. It just kind of made me laugh that like people would think that's weak, or to be, regulate your emotions as if that's a bad thing. But talking about parenting and with my mom, I picked her up from the airport the other night. She went and did some work with a friend at a friend's house, and she's traveling home. I had to pick her up so late, and I had put on social media how bedtime had really been a struggle for me lately. And it is. It's like, it's better. I think it was the time change. This time change kicked my butt. But it's this idea of like, you have, especially me, like if I have a day where I'm solo parenting for like 12, 13 hours, I have days like that. And, you're solo parenting 12, 13-hour days. You are doing a million other things. You're running an entire household. I'm doing social media stuff. I'm cleaning, I'm cooking, I'm getting laundry, like all of it. And you have stayed calm and cool and collected all day. And you get to that. You're so close to your time, which for me occurs after my children go to sleep. So you're so close to your time. And, you turn off the lights, turn on that sound machine. You're like, all right, let's go to bed. And they're like, no, and they're jumping and they're wild, and you're just like, I can't scream loud into this mic, but imagine a very loud scream. That's what's going off inside my brain. And it causes a rage, like anger, like rage. And it is just like, and I snap or I yell. It happens. And it has happened more recently because of this time change. And I'm just like, damn, no one told me about that. No one told me how triggered I would be. And it's almost like your children during that window are like threatening that time, because your time, you have that select window of time. For, like I said, for me, it's at night where you can eat a meal and sit and actually eat, or like watch that show you've been wanting to watch. That's when I like hang out with my husband or do things like this that I really get to enjoy. And so your children acting like that are like threatening that time, and it's setting off alarm bells like that your time is now compromised. And I had made a post about it on social media, and I put about how I had to like reparent myself. And my mom was like, oh my gosh, I got to tell you, like that broke my heart. And she was just having like a genuine conversation, but she's like, that broke my heart because, when you're raising kids, you're always thinking like, gosh, am I fucking them up? Like, I don't want to fuck them up. Please, please, please. Like, I don't want to mess them up. And she's like, and then you do. And I was like, Mom, you have to realize though, I was like, I don't feel like I'm fucked up. I just feel like we are imperfect. I've said this before. We're imperfect people raising imperfect people. And we have no real roadmap to this. We don't. And no matter how many people have lived before us, it's our first time living and our first time doing these experiences, including parenting. And my mom's like, and you can't take advice from your parents because every generation is different, has different collective experiences, has different skills that they're learning. And and I said, yeah, you can only pick, pieces of advice from your parents or your friends or a book you read. But at the end of the day, you don't know what you're doing till you're doing it. You just don't. You can't. And it's your first time doing it. So there's going to be mess ups, and there's going to be, and I also pointed out that, I feel like oftentimes we try to, we're parenting our kids in some instances how we wish we had been parented, but our kids are not us. So of course there's like universal things that we have all as a society and humans have decided, which is good, which is bad. Obviously, like we don't abuse our kids and we don't, all of these things. But when it like for the everyday everyday experiences, our kids might have totally different needs than we had. And we don't get to decide what our kids are traumatized by or what bits of trauma are going to stick with them. We don't get to decide that. And I just said, that's why therapy exists. That's why therapists exist. That is why those tools exist, and why I think relationships are such a, ebb and flow and forgiveness and whatever. Like I might parent differently in some ways than my parents did, but like my parents I love them. I'm probably unhealthily attached to them. Like I love my parents. I think they're so cool. I could hang out with them all the time. I think they were excellent parents. Yet am I doing things differently? Yeah, I am. And I hope when my kids grow up that whatever they didn't like or whatever, they try to change too and just be better and better and better. And I think that's all we can do. But I try not to harbor a lot of guilt about it, but it's nearly impossible. Of course it's impossible because it's hard to accept that I'm human sometimes. I want to get my kids, in my mind, deserve the absolute best version of me, and they don't get it all the time. And it's frustrating because I know that best version exists. And I'm like, why can't I be that all the time? But it's impossible because that would mean perfection, and perfection does not exist in this world. It just does not. So, and another thing was me getting angry. I was having a lot of guilt because of bedtime. Like I said, bedtime has been a real struggle. And there was a leader day at my daughter's school, and I went. Basically what that means is I go with her to school that day, and I'm like the teacher's helper, and we bring in a fun snack. How bedtime gets brought up or something, I don't even know. But Hannah basically says to her whole class and her teacher, like, yeah, sometimes mom gets angry at bedtime. And I just was like, yeah, nodded it off. But in my heart, oh man, my heart was like, oh, like the thing I was feeling so guilty about, she is focusing on. She's remembering it. She's internalizing it. She will have that memory of me yelling at bedtime. and getting really angry. And I felt so guilty because I was like, damn, I don't want that. And I feel like, I'm better than that. I'm better than that. But then it brought me back to, I don't want to cry. It brought me back to the boys with the blocks and how she calmed herself down. And I thought, how does she know how to do that? I thought, how does she know how to calm herself down like that? It's because she's seen me get angry. And she's also seen me calm myself down. And she has, every time that girl has seen me get angry, she has seen me apologize for it. And after that, that was a lot easier to let the guilt go. Because I realized that in those moments, I was showing her real moments of being human and how to react to them appropriately, how I should be acting. And by apologizing, showing her that I know it's wrong and showing her tools in real life situations of how to be better. So, when she gets angry and we need to calm down, we do deep breaths and we walk away or we shake out our body or whatever we need to do. And she has seen me do all of that. And I know firsthand that parenting very much is a do as I do, not as I say. You can talk a big game, but at the end of the day, they're going to copy what you do. That released a lot of guilt when I realized that I am a human. They are humans. We're not perfect. I'm not perfect. They're not perfect. And as much as our home is that for them is that gentle place they can come back to, I think it is for me too, with my kids, because they wake up. I mean, kids are amazing because they are open and forgiving and beautiful, pure little beings. And every day is a fresh start. And I mess something up every day. I'm sure I do. I say something in the wrong tone. I'm not paying enough attention when they say, Mom, look at me for the millionth time, whatever it is. There's something every day that all of us are doing that's not perfect. But we have this really cool zone of safety and love and encouragement that we feel safe in. And it's not just for the kids, it's for me too. I do something on my Instagram where I do a little Ask Emily segment. I'm going to be honest, I forgot to do that this week. I told you, I'm filming this on a Friday night. I'm all off track. But I went back in my Instagram stories to a previous time I had asked. And what this is just my advice, my take on a subject. Take from it what you will. Maybe something will resonate with you. Maybe something won't. That's okay. But the question is advice for the transition from 1 to 2 kids, having my second soon, and I'm nervous. My answer to this, I don't know if it'll be reassuring or not, but it is the truth, in my opinion. Sorry. It is the truth, in my opinion. 1 to 2 kids depends on your kids. I know that's so frustrating to hear, but it's true. So my daughter was, what was she? Just turned 2, little over 2. There were so many factors. My birth was easy. My recovery was a little rougher, but I could move around really well. My daughter was an amazing independent player. She still is to this day. She played very well independently. So it was no big deal if I had to go take the baby, back to change his diaper, whatever. She had very little jealousy issues. I do have a tip for that, which I'll talk about in a second. But, and more importantly, the baby, my son, slept well, ate well. He breastfed well, and then we switched to formula. He took 2 naps by himself in a room in his playpen. Fell asleep by himself. He learned how to self-soothe really quickly. For me, that part of the transition Easy breezy. Honestly was. Going from 1 to 2 kids when it just came to the kids was very easy. Now, was it very hard with like my mental health and realizing like I can't keep up with the house and like life is changing? Yeah, that's separate though, in my opinion. That didn't necessarily have to do with the kids. One tip though that was great was very much involving my older child. So like I said, she was like a little over 2, but I would always be like, "Hey, can you help me change the baby's diaper? Can you get me a wipe? Can you, let her wipe? Can you get me a diaper? Can you, give him a toy? Can you help me feed him a bottle?" Like getting her very involved. The other thing that was really helpful was I would tell the baby to wait. That sounds silly, but so say I was making my daughter a snack and the baby starts crying. I would say, "Hey, insert your child's name. Hey, baby, I will get you in 1 second. I'm making Hannah a snack." So that's in my instance, that would be it. Or so Levi is my son's name. But hey, Levi, he can't understand. He's a baby. He's tiny. But I'd say, "Hey, Levi, I'm tying Hannah's shoes right now. I'll be with you in a second," and let him cry for a moment. And so then when you have to tend to your baby and tell your toddler to wait, it's less like, "Oh, mom has no time with me. She's always with the baby." But it's just, "Oh, we have to wait our turn for things." That was an excellent piece of advice. Also, like I said, involving your older child, giving yourself grace. It's a big change. It does get figured out. The sleep schedules do work out. Like I said at the beginning of this podcast, I think most things in the end up okay. And as sometimes it's used as like a sad piece of advice, but just like, it's a chapter, it's a stage. And to me, that's like, yeah, you'll miss the stage, but sometimes that's really comforting to know. Sometimes it's really comforting to know, okay, this is just a stage and it will be over, in a few months, this one will be done teething and this one will be sleeping better. And this is just a stage and I can survive a stage. So I just think, just know that it will be okay. Involve your older child. Give yourself grace with everything, with your body, recovery, your house. It's a big adjustment and it's going to look differently for every single person. And you don't know until you're in it. But I will say there's really magical moments too. There's really magical moments when your kids love each other, play together. Of course, they're going to fight, but there's nothing quite like seeing their bond grow and evolve and see them really love each other. It's very cool. But on that note, I am going to end episode 5 and say, as always, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for supporting this podcast, sharing it, downloading it, listening to it, messaging me. Oh my gosh, I've gotten messages of just like, "Thank you. I love the podcast." And the feedback has just been so positive. And I will probably thank you at the end of every episode because I just think it's crazy that anyone listens to what I have to say and enjoys it. So thank you again. We will see you next week with another guest once I figure out who that is. So this is Keeping It Normal with Emily. Bye.